Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to analyze Ukrainian wide player Mykhaylo Mudryk's strengths and weaknesses to determine whether he's worth a big money transfer to the Emirates in the near future. So in today's video, first we're going to analyze Mudryk's role, then we'll focus on his strengths in the final third and his transitional threat, and lastly we'll focus on the weaknesses that he needs to improve in his game. So when we break it all down and we do look at the board, we're providing you with what could be one of the strongest starting 11s for Shakhtar, and it stems with Mudryk playing down that left-hand side. He operates in a similar role for the Ukraine national team, and for Arsenal, this is where Martinelli currently starts. From this left-wide role, there are several manners in which you can impact the game, and the first thing that comes to mind with Mudryk is his ability to vary his movement in that zone, whether it be checking in towards the ball to receive it and then holding off defenders to retain possession and linking play with his teammates, or simply shifting laterally to receive the ball in pockets of space between the lines to invite the fullback to push forward to provide the width. From that pocket of space between the lines, he can link play with his teammates and look to play them in 1v1 or in behind the opposing side's back line, or simply drag markers towards him and once again drop the ball off towards his teammates so they can switch the route of attack. If we look to the first example, it's Mudryk checking in towards the ball and dragging away the defender, and from here you witness the defender looking to make a challenge, but Mudryk does a very good job of using his body to hold off that challenge, take the touch away from the defender, and now you see him creating space and there's a lane for him to dribble into. From there you could see that help pressure is applied from behind, and you could see that a midfielder could shift across for cover. The midfielder doesn't shift across, and now you could see Mudryk looking to carry the ball against two of the opposition midfielders, and from here you're expecting him to not bypass both of them, but he ends up carrying the ball between both with his quick shift of pace, and from there he's pulled down for a free kick. And then against Madrid, you witness Mudryk receiving the ball ahead of Carvajal as he checks in towards his own half, and from there he's able to shield the ball away from the Real Madrid midfielder. He locates a defender as a passing option, and he ends up dropping the ball off in towards that path to evade the pressure from the Real Madrid midfield as they look to switch over, and that helps Shakhtar retain possession. However, there are two manners to assess Mudryk's productivity when he receives the ball in those pockets of space. When he quickly makes a decision whether he's going forward, laterally, or backwards, he often does a very good job of retaining possession or progressing the play. In this example, you witness Stepanenko dragging away Vasquez and splitting Vasquez and Modric for Mudryk between the lines. When Mudryk receives the ball, he turns and he assesses the options that he has, and he locates a striker making a run beyond the center backs, and he slides the ball between Carvajal and the center back to place the striker in this legitimate goal scoring position, but from here he ends up firing a first time effort that's challenged wide of the net. But we witness that when he does receive the ball and has to think about his next move, it allows defenders and opposing midfielders to close him down, and that's often when he does concede possession back to the opposition. Here you witness Ukraine attempting to chase the game through Mudryk in stoppage time, and he's in a 2v3 that could be a 2v4, and rather than playing in the overlapping wide player, he attempts to carry the ball across two defenders, and from this position you witness a 1v4. He ends up losing possession due to the pressure, and that halts a Ukraine attack. And then here you witness Mudryk looking to receive the ball in a pocket of space between Vasquez and Modric, and when that pass is played, you can see that he does well to receive it on the half turn, but watch as this attack develops. Rather than pushing forward, Mudryk anticipates Vasquez's pressure and looks to turn backwards, and from there his touch is heavy as Vasquez steps in, and that allows Benzema to track back to make a challenge as Mudryk slides in, and he ends up losing the ball, with Vasquez recovering it and allowing Madrid to push forward in transition. There was one example in particular against Real Madrid where Mudryk drops off ahead of Carvajal, and he hesitates about what he's going to do next, and that allows Camavinga to step in to win possession, but it's Mudryk's exceptional work rate and willingness to get back on the ball that sees him instantly press Camavinga, slide in to make a challenge, and from there he regains possession to help Shakhtar push forward. One of the key attributes that Arsenal possess down that left-hand side with Martinelli is his capability to retain possession in tight spaces and when pressure is applied, and as you can see, when Mudryk does receive the ball in that zone between the lines or near the touchline, he's also capable of doing the same, and that's a bonus for Arsenal as they can now be interchangeable in that regard. Generally speaking, for club and country, Mudryk sides do play in a front three, so that means when they drop out of possession, they are often more of a 4-5-1, and that gives Mudryk the task of protecting his fullback or pushing forward to apply pressure to try and win the ball higher up the pitch. What we see from Mudryk is that his work rate is exceptional, and he does a very good job of ensuring that his fullback isn't overloaded, and his work rate from a defensive aspect does see him win possession near the halfway line and at times near his penalty area in his own third, and that's vital for an Arsenal side that's very organized and disciplined when they drop off into two banks of four, and it's also beneficial for the Ukraine national team and Shakhtar. In this example, you witness Rodrigo carrying the ball in towards the Shakhtar penalty area with Mudryk tracking back to help his fullback against Valverde, and from here you can see that Rodrigo ends up splitting Mudryk and his fullback to place Valverde free in the right half space, but here Valverde opts to cut back across the fullback, and that allows Mudryk to recover, and because his second touch is heavy, you could witness Mudryk sliding in to halt the Valverde attack, and he helps Shakhtar retain possession to push forward. And then in last season's Champions League against Monaco, you witnessed the goalkeeper throwing the ball over Mudryk to the wide player dropping in towards his own half, but Mudryk anticipates that throw, he tracks back to attempt to apply pressure towards the wide player with his fullback, and because that first touch is heavy, Mudryk's capable of stepping in to help win possession, and his work rate allows Shakhtar to retain possession. Where plenty of Martinelli's productivity from the left touchline hasn't resulted in legitimate goal scoring opportunities or goals in general, but it's when the Brazilian shifts laterally and gets himself in central positions that he's able to harm the opposing side's backline. Mudryk presents a different threat, and it does shift the way that Arsenal may look to attack if they were to sign him. They would often play in more of a 4-1-5 with Mudryk hugging the touchline, and that 3-2-5 would potentially see Xhaka making more underlapping runs in behind, or Tierney pushing forward to make those underlapping runs as well. However, where Mudryk is capable of creating 1v2 situations to drop the ball back off into a player that can deliver a quality cross into the penalty area, what we end up seeing from him is that when he gets into those positions, he does a very good job of allowing his fullbacks to make overlapping runs and playing them successfully into the left half space where they could pull back the ball from the byline or look to find a teammate towards the far post or in the 6-yard area. In a match against Scotland, you see Mudryk looking to receive the ball in the left channel. When he does, you can see that his fullback's looking to push forward and help pressures coming across to make it a 1v2. From here, Mudryk could look to play the ball in towards the box as it's a 1v3, but he looks to play the ball in towards the overlapping run. He ends up taking two Scotland players out of the game by playing the ball towards the byline, and from this position, now he creates an avenue for his fullback to create an opportunity. And then if we look to another example, it's Mudryk once again looking to receive the ball near the left touchline, and when he does, it's a 1v1 from this position, but he locates the underlapping run being played by the passer. From here, he looks to run at the fullback, and he has two options. He could play in the underlapping run, or use that movement to cut across his marker who isn't stuck tight. From there, he uses the movement from that runner, and he looks to fire an effort on goal that's pushed away. Put simply, there are two ways that Mudryk terrorizes the opposing side's backline. One are his outward-inward runs in behind the fullback, and whether you play the ball between the center back and the fullback to bypass the backline or clip balls over the top, Mudryk's pace allows him to break forward in behind the backline to serve as a legitimate goal threat or create for runners breaking in towards the penalty area. Over the last 2 seasons when Shakhtar has played Real Madrid, we've consistently witnessed Mudryk terrorize Lucas Vazquez and Carvajal by making those runs in behind, and from there he's simply capable of getting himself into legitimate goal scoring positions due to his pace. Against Real Madrid, you witness Shakhtar breaking in transition and focus on the positioning of Carvajal and Mudryk. While Carvajal's poorly positioned, you can witness Mudryk looking to make a run across him, and the pass is played to set Mudryk free in on goal. But the issue that Mudryk has here is that while he does take a first touch in towards the penalty area, from here he should be firing a low shot on goal against Courtois, but he lets the ball roll across his body, and it allows Courtois to come off his line, get big, and here you see him sliding in to ensure Mudryk can't get a shot on goal. And then once again against Madrid, you witness Mudryk manipulating the positioning of Carvajal. From here, it looks like he's checking in towards the ball, but once his midfield teammate receives it, that's where you see him looking to make the run across Carvajal, who's flat-footed, and his teammate anticipates that run and he clips the ball over the Madrid midfield that's not applying pressure, and that's where you see Mudryk exploiting the space of the center back that was pulled out of position. He chests down the ball between the large gap of Carvajal and the other center back to bring it in towards left half space, and from this position he does a very good job of shooting, but the issue is that the shot is tame and it rolls at Courtois. The other manner in which Mudryk terrorizes the opposing side's backline is with his quick shift of pace, and that's largely in transition. If you analyze a large portion of Mudryk's final third threats, they often stem from his own third or the middle third where his side wins possession, and then he uses his quick shift of pace to break in behind or carry the ball forward to play in his teammates. He could serve as a willing runner and get himself into legitimate goal scoring scoring positions behind the opposition backline, or simply carry the ball from his own third and then pick out runners that are breaking in behind to play them into 1v1 situations or situations where they have an overload to create. In many cases, this is an asset for Shakhtar and Ukraine, who do pride themselves in being organized and disciplined, and when they do win possession in their own third, it's Mudryk who they look to play in as he quickly looks to break forward in towards the opposition's half, as most sides encounter difficulties coping with his sheer pace in transition, and that's where he presents his largest threat.
Against Leipzig this season, you witness Shakhtar looking to break forward in transition from their own penalty area and focus on the movement of Mudryk. As the pass is played in towards his teammate down the right channel, no one's capable of keeping up with Mudryk's run in towards the Leipzig half, and it places Mudryk in this position where he's now 1v1 on goal because no one can keep up with his pace, and he carries the ball in towards the penalty area, sizes up his shot, and fires an effort beyond the keeper. Against Scotland, you witness Mudryk receiving the ball in his own penalty area as they fail to convert from a corner kick, and that results in the transitional break from there. You could see that of Scottish midfielders looking to come across to apply pressure, but Mudryk takes a first touch and then he uses his quick shift of pace to cut across the marker that's looking to apply pressure, and that ignites the break. From here, he anticipates two runners to his right and towards his left, and he looks to play a ball across two Scottish defenders to play his teammate free on goal. From here, Mudryk places his teammate in a 1v1 and he should be carrying the ball freely towards goal, but he ends up hesitating when he takes his second touch ahead of the penalty area, and that allows recovery pressure to come across to halt the attack.
So as you can see at the moment, Mudryk's overall attacking game is pretty simplistic, but when you focus on the minimal weaknesses that he currently possesses, it's largely down to his inability to win 1v1s against a set defense. Over the last 12 months, largely in last year's Champions League, you witnessed him in 1v1 situations against set defenders, and he struggled to get the better of them in those situations, whether it be in transition or simply looking to carry the ball in towards the final third. This is currently an issue that Arsenal possess with Martinelli, and he struggles to get the better of defenders that are set in their position and preparing for the 1v1. They often force him to the byline, and that results in him making the wrong decision or playing in a poor delivery in towards the penalty area, and this is one aspect that Mudryk could also improve, as his current threat in the final third ranges between him running in space against a defender or running off the shoulder of the defender to break into 1v1 situations. Meanwhile, the other issue that Mudryk encounters in the final third is when he gets himself into legitimate goal scoring positions, largely breaking in beyond the opposing side's backline. It's his decision making in those situations and his final delivery or ball in those areas that let his side down. There are several situations where you witness Mudryk getting himself into a position where he could create or score for himself, but he often makes the wrong decision, and that's another aspect similar to Martinelli that he needs to improve if he wants to take his game to the next level.
Against Celtic, you witness Shakhtar once again breaking from their own half in transition, and look at Mudryk running off his marker to receive the loose ball. From here, he now has the speed to carry the ball forward beyond two challenges, and that creates a 2v2 due to his sheer pace. What ends up happening from here is that he carries the ball forward at the defender that's looking to backpedal, and he has a 1v2 and he uses the space ahead of him to dribble the ball across both of them, and he anticipates his attacking player looking to make a run in behind. From there, he cuts across the center back that was backpedaling. He has a passing lane where he could play the ball in towards his teammate to break free into right half space, but the pass is overhit and it halts the attack. And then here in a potential 2v1, you witness Mudryk looking to run off the fullback to break into right half space. His teammate anticipates the threat and his movement, clips the ball over the back line, and from here he should be looking to play a first-time ball towards the back post, but he attempts to pull it back towards his teammate with two markers ahead of him, and it's actually the third recovery opposing defender that tracks back to halt the attack.
So as you can see, Mykhaylo Mudryk's impact and transition with his dribbling and quick shift of pace presents several issues to the opposition backline, but outside of his runs off the fullback shoulders and behind, the Ukrainian's high transfer fee will be justified based on improved decision making and productivity against set defenses in the final third.